Thank you for joining us tonight and welcome to AccuWeather Prime. I'm Melissa Constanzer and we've got video coming in from all over the world, including France where they're lighting fires, to places like Canada where we've got a little bit of a dust devil. And check out some of the hail here in South Carolina. We're going to have more on that in just a moment. I'm going to have to deal with that later again this week. We'll start you off on Thursday, really overnight Wednesday night into Thursday. You can see some of the energy starting to work into the southwest, into California. And as we watch this push its way off towards the east, all of a sudden starts to spin up. So this is where we have our first problem. We get into Thursday and then more so into Friday with that risk for severe weather. But this is just storm system number one. There is another one that's going to be driving into the southwest as we go throughout the weekend. So we will have to talk about that later on too. Let's get you set up, though, for your Thursday afternoon and Thursday night. There's some risk for severe weather with a threat for large hail, some damaging winds as we head through time. So we'll be watching that anywhere from southern Nebraska right into northern Texas with that risk for severe weather. Then as the storm system moves off to the northeast, well, guess what? It's got more rain, more thunderstorm threat with it Friday, and plenty of chilly air on the northern side. So we will be talking about another spring setup here with that cold air interacting with the warm, moist air coming from the south. It spells out trouble. Hail, isolated tornadoes, damaging winds along the I-29 corridor off towards the east as you look through Iowa and Missouri, and then stretching into eastern Oklahoma, too. That's where we'll have some of the most significant threats. As the storm system starts to move off towards the northeast, it kind of gets removed from that moist setup. So we'll have thunderstorms, but we start to lose some of the severe impacts from it. So that's the good news as we get into the weekend across the Great Lakes in the northeast. However, like I said, it's not the end of the story, so you have to remember that. We watch the storm system again build up as it slides its way off to the northeast. Some of those thunderstorms get going heading into Friday morning. Friday throughout the day, we'll find more thunderstorms erupting on this cold front as it slides its way off towards the east, including across Missouri there and into Illinois late through the overnight hours. And as the storm system departs on Saturday morning, you got to watch because the next one is coming out of the Rockies, and that fires up more severe weather. So the second storm system that I mentioned will bring the severe weather threat Saturday across places like Oklahoma and Texas. Well, for a look at what else is going on across the country, let's head over to Jeff and Justin for tonight's Big Three. Let's see what's going on around our world. Rescues of people and animals continue in several Russian regions inundated by flood waters. We're going to take you out and beyond, and we do know that Thursday is going to start off with quite a cold air mass, or a chilly air mass, I should say, over the northeast. So if you're there, again, remember, it's still not quite the season that you can have the plants outside yet. If you're like me, you're just itching to put them outside, but you can't do it just yet. Meanwhile, colder air working its way into the western U.S. does mean there's going to be more changes to come this week. So the late week actually becomes more active of a pattern than what we've seen as far as weather for the next couple of days. So once we get out into Friday, look at all the thunderstorm threat we have here, including that severe risk in the moderate zone near Interstate 29 and off towards the east. So that's where we're watching for some of that severe weather. That's Friday. Saturday, this storm's on the move. But there's a whole across the northern tier of the nation in April, it can mean some big changes for us. Often it means melting snow with the risk for flooding anytime we find rain. Well, if you look at the snowpack across the northern tier of the nation, it's been pretty depleted, especially across the Great Lakes into the northern plains. We really don't have any of it to melt. So the good news is our flooding threats have remained low. However, we've been dry, and drought is a little bit of a factor. Tuesday, we get the rainfall again without that risk for flooding because, well, it's just a few thunderstorms. Spotty in nature as they work their way across Wisconsin, maybe even into a place like Grand Rapids. And throughout the day, we'll also deal with showers. Places like Chicago starting off with some showers, maybe a few afternoon rumbles of thunder. So here we are for Tuesday. Green Bay, a few thunderstorms possible. Temperatures there in the mid-60s. Off towards the northwest, we're cooler. Minneapolis no longer in the 70s, back to the 50s. Fargo, upper 50s for you. And yes, it is April, so we expect some of these temperature variations through time as we deal with a little bit of this wet weather. Notice what happens as the storm system starts to move east. It brings just enough cool air to create some instability showers, a few rumbles of thunder, maybe some small hail trying to mix in with some of that activity. That keeps pulling out. And guess what? Tuesday night, things pretty much quiet down for us. Wednesday, fairly quiet across the north central tier of the nation. So it becomes a numbers game then at that point because The warmth builds back into the high plains, and those numbers go up into the 70s for places like Sioux Falls and Rapid City, also Scottsbluff. Sioux Falls rather mid-60s, but Rapid City and Scottsbluff coming back into the mid-70s. Chicago, though, still at 50 degrees with the wind off the lake.